What up, guys? Cut vlog, day 5, lower body 2. It's first lift of the week. Starting it off with some leg press. So getting into it, I've got my toes pretty much pointed straight ahead here. I've been messing around with that rather than having toes pointed out. Whenever I have my toes pointed out, I can get like really good depth, but ultimately I end up feeling that more in my adductors and in my glutes than in my quads. So I found that by keeping my feet straight point ahead, a little bit more narrow, that I can stay on my quads a lot better. But it kind of looks like, I'm not really getting a ton of ROM, but I can feel it. I got it. I got the tension where I want it to be at. And so that was the first set there. Ended up backing the weight off a little bit, and I actually got a yoga block in between my knees on this one. And through powerlifting, years of powerlifting, I had been really focused on external rotation in my squat patterns through my hips and really heavy on the outside of my feet. And so what I've been trying to do is get more connected with the inside of my feet, like the big toe, ball of the foot, inner heel, and this yoga block helps me to kind of keep that pressure on my feet where I want it to be at. And so with that, getting out of the adductors, getting out of the glutes, and just biasing a little bit more, staying kind of more not internally rotated, but not so much in external rotation. And this has been really, really helpful for me, and I've seen the change in my quads. So after this set, I actually take this into a drop set. So just peeling a plate off of one side. So if you don't know, anytime a machine is on rails, you can just pull a plate off of one side. You don't have to pull a plate off of both sides. But now into this first drop set, I'm gonna kind of just pump the top range of motion, right? So you can see I'm not really going as deep. I'm taking my time, and I'm just trying to build up tension and create that sensation through my quads right where I want it to be at. So I'm just riding that tension, being patient, being calm, even though my legs are screaming at this point. And then taking that into another drop set. And now I'll get into a little bit of a different foot position, get my feet out wider, toes pointed out a little bit, just mixing it up now and hitting a little bit of a different angle here. Still trying to stay connected on the inside edge of my feet. I guess you could call it the medial side of the foot. Good money. Good money. So just took a little bit of a breather there before I got back into it. Didn't drop the weight on this, but just going with that narrow stance again and just gonna try to drive as much blood in there as I can, just really almost at the top. So even shorter than that other drops that I had done, and just riding that tension for as many reps as I can get. A little self-assist. That'll do it. Moving into barbell squats. So I had initially wanted to start or do this program with front squats, but I ended up swapping it out for back squats in the first week. And I'm running a percentage-based program or percentage-based progression, I guess you could say, on my squat here. And I had kind of set my max for that for front squats at 245. And so I'm stronger than that in 245 for a single on back squat, but I opted to just kind of keep that one rep max from which my percentages are based for the back squat, just to keep myself from being too greedy. And I figured I could just adjust it up as I go through the weeks. So this day was supposed to be 4 sets of 4 with 175 pounds. I think 170 to be exact, actually. And so ended up getting into it, and it's really, really easy. But I haven't had barbell squats in the mix for a long time. And so, again, just wanting to not be greedy, give myself some time to really dial in the movement again because it feels foreign. It feels light, but it feels foreign. So, just allowing myself some time to learn, like relearn the movement and be patient. But ultimately, ended up going heavier, 205. It still feels light, but ended up doing a few sets at 205 and just really taking my time, again, trying to feel that inside edge of my feet and just staying connected on the actual quad rather than putting myself in the most advantageous Jesus position to lift the most weight, right? So I ended up doing a last set here and just racking up some reps. So it's supposed to be 4x4. Last set, I said, you know what? Let me do a super, super conservative AMRAP. And so that's what I'm doing here. Just taking my time, controlling the change of direction. It's supposed to be paused. Watching this back, these aren't pauses. That's just a controlled change of direction. So need to be better about that moving forward. But everything felt pretty good, which is awesome because getting into this session, man, it was one of those where things just they weren't feeling great, and so that's why I'm actually doing a voiceover because I needed to just do some mobility work in between my movements as I'm warming up to address what needed to be addressed. And that is something that, I would encourage all of you to do is be time efficient, right? So yeah, sure, do a warm up, mobility warm up before you get into the session, but also if things aren't feeling great while you're lifting, do some stuff in between your working sets to address what issues that you have. Now, getting into some lying hamstring curls. So I've got two sets here. And one of the things that I'm really trying to pay attention to while I'm doing these is limiting my hip movement. So trying to avoid the back arching as much as I can. And then also trying to avoid my knees kind of ducking out or like splaying out, right? So that the pressure that I feel on the pad, that it is straight through the center of my leg and not on the inside edge of my knee, just to keep everything lined up as best as I can and not just go where I feel strongest at, if that makes sense. So, second set here, all the same deal. This machine, it gets the job done, but I've had to mess around with it quite a bit. And at some point, I'll probably end up trying to get an actual commercial piece of equipment. But for the time being, this is what I got to work with. Just the hamstring curl just doesn't line up exactly right. End up doing a drop set after this. So just peeling some weight off. I'm going to drop the arm down a little bit. So I'm going to do some lengthened work actually. So just pump in the lengthened portion of that lift, just floating in and out of that tension, racking up some reps here, putting some blood in the hamstrings. A little stretch, and then I'll go into as many full reps as I can with a little bit of a hold at the top. I'm just playing around here at this point, just playing around, trying to get the most out of it that I can. And then a few more partials, just baby partials. If you've never done partial reps on hamstring curls, give them a shot because it's something else. Now, this isn't something that I had planned for, but right now everything is it's super easy. Like the main bread and butter, the squat pattern, it's not heavy, so I'm just kind of sprinkling in a little bit of extra quad work. On my first lower body day, I did the same. I had leg press after I squatted because it's not a whole lot of stimulus happening, so I want to just sprinkle in a little bit more. But this is not technically on my plan. But just with these single leg extensions, one thing that you can mess around with is angles, right? And you can use the pad underneath your leg that's on your hamstring as a reference point. If you change where the pressure is at on your hamstring, right? So maybe a little bit more on the inside, a little bit more on the outside, you're going to notice that it's going to change where you contract at in your quad. Your quad's still contracting as a whole, but for me, when I put the pressure on that inside edge, medial edge of my hamstring, fucking plate fell off right here. It's another thing with this machine. If you're not using clips, the plate will fall off on you. But if I put some of that pressure on the inside edge of my hamstring, like I'm doing here, and I can just kind of pump at the top and just really fill the VMO up. And then if you mess around and get a little bit more on the outside edge, I feel a little bit more in my sweep, which is interesting because I've heard people say the exact opposite. So I don't know if I'm just built different, but that is what I feel. So last little finishing touch here, just doing some holds at the top. I've been doing isometric holds, and I think that there's a lot of benefit in them. The more research I do on them, isometric holds can be really great for tendon health and tendon strength, and especially if you've got some pain like I do in my knees, doing some isometric holds before you get into your leg day can actually do quite a bit to reduce some of that pain, right? So I've got a little quad tendon pain, and that seems to be very helpful. Then just getting into some stretching. Just, I like to stretch in ways that is very easy for me to get comfortably uncomfortable, and just getting into a leg press and letting it kind of, get you into a deep stretch. So I'm feeling big adductors. I'm feeling a lot of my hamstring stretching. I'm feeling a lot of my calf stretching. So I just get into this stretch. And this would be something that would be great to do, obviously, before you train. But I want to make sure that, I've got something in the middle, because I was feeling pretty tight and not great today. So just spending some time getting into this deep stretch, and you're going to see me kind of wiggling around, searching for spots that don't feel great, pumping in and out, rotating at my waist, just searching. Various positions here. And that's something with stretching, like, it's great to just get into a stretch and hold it, but getting into a stretch and exploring that stretch, not just staying completely static, I think is highly beneficial. Finishing up the session with some dual cable adductors. So this doesn't look like much, but it is. These are tough. Got to keep your stomach braced so that you're not getting into an arch position. And big stretch here. It gets lighter as the legs come together and heavier as the legs go apart, which is a great way to have things loaded up. So I had 2 sets here. I ended up progressing the load today on this one. I think I got like 44 pounds. So there's going to be some limitations with this machine and just like getting into position. But for the time being, this is what I got to work with. So, not the best session today, to be totally honest, but I still got in. I still did what I could and checked the boxes. And, not every day is going to be a day that feels great, but, you get in there and you do what you can. So I'll see you on the next one.